I have a lovely Freshies haul for you here, guys, and there's one, and that's the one I'm going to start with, that's quite expensive. Although, well, I mean, it's not like Byredo expensive, it's Chanel expensive, but everything else is much more affordable, and I would actually, no, in fact, they're cheapies, the rest of this haul. But I'm going to start with the one that I have to thank Danielle from my perfume journal, the wonderful, fragrant, beautiful, intelligent, fabulous Danielle. She basically, this is one of the perfumes when we were out sniffing in Selfridges that she handed to me, and she was just, you know, it was eyes rolling back into the head. I love this one. I smelt it and I was like, oh, it kind of reminds me of green tea, but it's not exactly green tea. But I was like, I just think that there was something about it that called me back, right? So I smelt it and I was like, oh, it's really nice. And I kept thinking about it. And that is Cristalle Eau Verte from Chanel. So this is the current version, the Eau de Parfum. And I was just like, I'm just going to go and test that one out. And I'm probably not going to love it, so it's going to be fine. And I sprayed it on myself, and then I went back to work and I was like, I do love this. I actually love it. And I can see why Danielle loves it as well. And so I was straight on to Vinted and eBay until I found a bottle. I don't really like to buy these when they're still wrapped up because I always assume they're going to be fake. So I like ones that someone's opened and they've either used a little, you know, they've sprayed it and they've decided they didn't like it, or they've actually put a big dent in it. That's what I normally look for, because then I'm not so worried that it's going to be a fake. And obviously the feedback helps. So some wonderful, beautiful perfume had either, I don't know whether this was a gift or whether they bought it for themselves and they clearly didn't love it. So I found this one. I think I got this one on Vinted. I can't remember how much it was, but I remember thinking that it was a really good deal. So that for me means for a Chanel it was around maybe 60. But I can't really remember. But either way, they were so much more expensive on eBay, all the ones that I saw. Yeah, there's definitely something rather magical about this. So this is the absolutely gorgeous bottle. Oh, and I should just say as well, the lovely Danielle also inspired me to put up a little background here, because I'm in a rental property and I can't really paint anything, and the walls aren't, you know, they can be a bit grubby, and sometimes in my videos it tends to drive me a bit mad. So I was like, what can I do? So I chose something that reminded me of Danielle's a little bit in honour of her. And it goes well with this particular beautiful perfume. So this is Cristalle Eau Verte. This is the Eau de Parfum. I mean, it's got a very pale green colour, and it really does smell the way you would expect it to in a way. It's got notes of Amalfi lemon, bergamot at the top, and then the mid notes of neroli and magnolia, base notes jasmine, iris and musk. And this is an interesting journey, because I would say, like, sniffing it from the cap, I am definitely getting that kind of in the same realm as green tea. It doesn't actually smell like it's Elizabeth Arden green tea, but it's in that same neck of the woods in terms of if you were going to grab something like on a hot day, or if you wanted a freshie that has a bit of greenness to it, if you wanted something that gave you a little bit of a spa vibe. They're both in that realm, but this one starts off very, very green. So when I first sprayed this on me, I was like, oof, I don't know that the neroli is doing me any favors here. The lemon is quite sharp. There's a real bitterness, a real green feel. So the notes that are listed for the Cristalle Eau Verte Eau de Parfum, this guy, are citruses, green notes, magnolia and jasmine. But I do want to also look at the Eau de Toilette version of this, because in that one they have Amalfi lemon and bergamot in the top. They've got neroli and magnolia in the mid, and then they've got base notes that are jasmine, iris and musk. Now I do feel like I do wonder if that's like a little bit more of an honest version of what's in the Eau Verte as well, because it does very much start with citruses and green notes, like hardcore green notes, but it has a bitterness that I expect from something like neroli or maybe like petitgrain, that kind of thing, like that very green, orange blossomy kind of greenness that I get from neroli. So when I first sprayed it on, I was like, I don't know about this. I think maybe this isn't going to be for me. And then it dried down, and it kind of took a detour from that classic green tea feel, in that this became much more floral. And I am absolutely sure that there is musk in this. And I suspect that there is also maybe some iris in it too, because it's just got this, it doesn't just smell like jasmine and magnolia to me, and neither of those are my favourite florals. There is a kind of softness and almost a, I don't want to say fluffy, but that's not quite right, but there is a soft floral skin musk feel when this dries down on me, and it does smell magical. Now, would I pay the full price for this? I would ask for it as a gift, but I don't know that I would pay full price for it, just because it's quite fleeting. It's definitely a bit of a skin scent almost immediately, and it lends itself really well to this warmer weather. But I think that this, if longevity is an issue for you and you don't want to spend like Chanel money on something that's not going to last very long, then Cristalle Eau Verte is not going to be for you. But realistically, green and citrusy perfumes tend not to last very long, so I never have like very high expectations. So I'm very happy to have this. I didn't know that I'd love it, and then I really properly loved it. So I have to thank Danielle for drawing my attention to this, because I do think that this is really beautiful. I'm very happy to have it in my collection. And as you can see, like, there was barely anything taken out of it before I got my hands on it. So very, very happy about this. It's a big old bottle though. So next up, I'm going to talk about something that, although I don't think it smells exactly the same, I do feel like I would be reaching for it in exactly the same circumstances, and it does definitely have a similar feel. But this one is a real cheapie. So this is Jeanne en Provence. It's an eau de parfum, and it's called Vervine The Blanc. I think it's like, yeah, I think when there's a little thingy over the E, I think that's te rather than the. But it's Vervine The Blanc. So this is one that's not on for Grantica yet. It is on Parfumo though, and it's really, really just drew my attention because this is a tea perfume. I do quite like the Jeanne en Provences that I've smelt. So I'm not even going to try and read the back of this because I haven't got a light on in my room apart from the one that's on the screen. So let's put this one down. I also think these bottles are lovely, and they cost about £12. Yeah, this is a good one. So, look at this cute little bottle. Isn't it so lovely? I think it's lovely. So, let's have a look at the notes here. We've got citrus zest, geranium, and lemon in the top. The heart notes are verveine, white tea, and mandarin orange. The base notes are bergamot, lemon tree, and petitgrain. So, it does have, again, that real greenness. I've got the dry down here. And this has, again, another kind of musky feeling green dry down. This one I think is less floral, but you definitely get some of that tea. And it's a bit sweeter, I'd say, but it really is in that same neck of the woods in terms of like reaching for something that's going to be perfect for really hot weather. So it's more soapy when you first spray it. It's like it's properly got a little bit of a soapy feel, and then you get whacked by that citrus and lemon, and it's really beautiful. And you really can sense, actually, smelling it again, a little bit of that geranium, and then it moves into that kind of green bergamoty direction. I almost feel like you get the top notes first, and then you get the base notes, and then the heart notes are what come out the more it dries down. And like I said, I'm sure there's musk in this, even though it doesn't say there is. It's fresh, it's pretty, it's not too bitter. When this dries down on my skin, like I said, there is something musky about it that almost has a little tiny bit of skank to it. Not in a bad way, but almost smells a little bit like a hot body. But because you've got so much of the kind of zesty citrus and the white tea and the fresh notes and the greenness, it still smells clean. But I really like this one. This is one that's staying with me. I think this is a great freshie. And unfortunately, I don't have it with me yet because it hasn't arrived yet. But my husband bought me a perfume. And one of the other things that I smelt when I was with Danielle is a perfume I had many, many years ago. Possibly the first ever properly expensive perfume I bought myself. And that was Herba Fresca from the Guerlain Aqua Allegoria range. So when I smelt that when I was with Danielle, I was like, this just makes me feel happy. It's bright, it's zingy. And this is that same kind of thing. Both of these, in fact, have that same kind of feel about them. They're bright, they're a bit green, they're citrusy. They're really invigorating, but they dry down to be soft, you know? Really, really like it. I think it's an excellent, excellent option. And if you don't want to pay, because honestly, this lasts the same amount of time as Cristalle Eau Verte, if not longer. And if you don't want to spend Chanel style prices on what is essentially a citrusy green freshie, then this is an excellent option. They don't smell the same, but like I said, you're going to have quite a similar experience wearing them if you're not looking for those specific details. I just find that Eau Verte is much more floral than this one, but they're both beautiful. So very happy with both of them, to be honest. So next up we have one that I've been recommended a number of times, but I finally bought it because this is so cheap that it's actually insane. Like, I think this is a 50ml bottle, and I'm pretty sure it cost me less than £4 from Notino. This is an old classic. I think this is probably from the 90s. Preta Porter by Coty. So, I mean, I feel like this maybe came out after CK1 was a massive hit, and it is that same kind of thing, even though I feel like the advertising is so different. Like, I kind of knew what I was going to get because I've seen this on Fragrantica. I've seen the comparisons and I saw the notes. But before I'd checked any of that, I was not expecting it to be a kind of freshy CK1 kind of smell. Because it's called Preta Porter, I was expecting it to be something far more feminine and kind of fashiony, you know what I mean? But I guess this is what was in fashion. So this is Preta Porter. It's got a very gently blue liquid, as you can see. And I think it's blue on the inside of that cap. So this one, I mean, it definitely does have a bit of a CK1 feel, but I have to say, I think this is nicer than CK1. There's something about CK1, and I'm not sure if it's because, I'm not sure if it's because I'm just sort of traumatized by how many people wore that when I was at school. So maybe I just got so sick of the scent of it, and I do have a mini, and I have compared them. But Preta Porter is, I think, it's just a bit nicer. It almost smells a bit less chemically to me. I always feel that whenever I smell CK1 now, there's something in it that rubs me up the wrong way. This is maybe a bit tangier, maybe not quite as hardcore citrusy, but it's definitely in that realm of what CK1 smells like. But it's way more affordable. So you've got in the top of Preta Porter pink grapefruit, orange, violet leaf, rose and tamarind. And the tamarind here is what's making this so interesting and tangy. You can smell that in the top. Then the mid notes are freesia, black pepper, magnolia, cardamom and nutmeg. So it's got those spices and it's got the florals. Base notes, oak moss and sandalwood. I mean, if you told me there was tea in this, I would totally believe you. I think the fact that this is quite orangey and it's not so lemony, because CK1 sometimes I think smells a little bit like a cleaning product to me, and then there's a bitterness in the dry down, which I don't love. I also think that CK1, even though it's supposed to be unisex, I do find it a little bit masculine. This one, I mean, don't get me wrong, this is entirely unisex. This does not in any way smell feminine to me. Both of the last ones, so everything so far, both Cristalle Eau Verte and the Vervine The Blanc, they both smell very unisex to me. But I would say this one is kind of unisex, leaning masculine. CK1 to me just smells kind of masculine. I can definitely smell the freesia and the magnolia in the mid of this. I get a hint of the spices, but I do get that tamarind and I get the orange and the pink grapefruit. it's got quite a hefty base. I think because it has like cardamom, nutmeg, black pepper, oak moss and sandalwood, I think that this has a presence, you know. It's not quite as wishy-washy as the first two, which I do love. I would say if you really like CK1, you like those kind of perfumes, you like those style of freshies, you would probably really like Preta Porter. Personally, I don't really love these kind of freshies. I was really interested to smell this one and test it. It smells perfectly nice on my skin, but for me, these kind of perfumes, they always lean just a little bit too far into what feels masculine on me. I think on my skin, it smells a bit masculine. So I feel like I'm wearing like one of my husband's scents rather than wearing one of my own. They just don't suit me, but in terms of the price, unbelievable. You can get this for such a bargain, and I really think if you're a CK1 type of person, you should definitely look into trying Preta Porter by Coty, because I think that this one is like a really, really good affordable option. Again, not even affordable, like straight up cheap. It's absolutely insane how much of a bargain you can get this one for. So yeah, and it's, you know, it's a decent enough bottle. It does look very 90s though, doesn't it? Look at that. Paris, New York. Is London not on here? Outrageous. So the last two freshies in this haul are both Elizabeth Arden green tea flankers. Now, if you watch me normally, you'll be like, why does she keep buying the flankers? She never likes them. She never keeps them. And yes, that is true. Because I absolutely love the original so much, I never really keep these flankers. But it doesn't mean I don't want to smell them in the hope that one day I'll find something I adore. And it doesn't mean that I don't want to talk about them on my channel. So let's start with this one. This is Green Tea Nectarine Blossom from Elizabeth Arden. And this is one that I hear talked about quite a lot from Maria Colette. So I think this is one of her favourite freshies. And I'm just like, I've never smelt this one. Let's give it a go. So this, again, I think I maybe managed to get this for around about £10 or £11 on Latino. I think with the exception of the Chanel Cristalle, all of these came from Latino. I'm not sponsored. I just buy a lot of perfumes from there because they do such good deals. And if you really hate things and they're expensive, you can send them back. You can return them. So I just thought it was time to smell this. Now, this has arrived with a busted lid, which is a bit annoying, but it was such a bargain that I'm like, well, whatever. I'm going to spray this out because I'm still trying to make up my mind about this one. I mean, first things first, it smells like a shampoo. It kind of smells a little bit like Fuzzy Peach to me from the Body Shop until it gets a little bit sharper. And then it starts to smell like a shampoo. I don't like shampoo-y perfume, so I was a bit sad about that. But it's definitely got a soapy, shampoo-y quality. So Green Tea Nectarine Blossom is green tea, peach, exotic fruit, bergamot in the top, nectarine, green tea, and nectarine blossom in the mid, and then base notes and musk. Now, when I say something smells shampoo-y, that normally means to me that it's a bit screechy, and I do find this a bit screechy. And it's quite sharp as well. And it's making my nose tingle the way that shampoo perfumes do. And I don't love it. But what I have to say about this one is I do think this increasingly gets nicer as it dries down. I think that when you first spray it, it's hardcore, sharp, slightly screechy shampoo smell. And not like an expensive shampoo, like a cheapy shampoo smell. Which I really don't love, like a peach, nectarine, flowery shampoo. But it softens and softens the more it dries down, and then it gets that fuzzy peach feel back again. But if you can imagine a fuzzy peach perfume that is like an elevated version of the Body Shop Fuzzy Peach, because it's also like tea, so it's got a slightly sheerer, less sickly feel about it. Now, I don't love peach, but I also don't mind when it's like a sheer peach. Like, that's my favourite kind of peach. But the nectarine here, I think, is quite sharp. And I have to say, this feels very far away from the original green tea DNA to me. But that's not really a bad thing, because one of the reasons that I never keep these is because I love the original green tea with such a deep and burning passion that whenever I try these, if they just smell like a slightly different version of green tea, I just never like them as much. What I quite like is when they don't smell really like green tea, and it gives me a reason to be like, well, I could reach for this, because everything else would just be like, why am I wearing this when I could wear green tea? But this one I think is kind of out on its own. But yeah, it's slightly nostalgic for me in a way because of that weird fuzzy peach thing. I think realistically, there's no point in me keeping this. I don't think I would wear it, but I do like it when it dries down. When I first spray it, don't like it at all. On paper, it's not great. On skin, it's much nicer. It gets softer. It gets less shampooey. And it's kind of pretty. Do you know what I mean? But it's definitely... It's not what I would choose to reach for, generally speaking, for a freshie myself. But I would highly recommend it if you like shampooey perfumes and if you like watery peach perfumes. I think that it's Nectarine Blossom, but I really think what it smells like is a kind of... If you could imagine like Lipton iced tea, but as a slightly sharp shampoo, like that's the kind of feel I'm getting here. But yeah, it was definitely worth a try. It's just not my fave. And then the last one in this haul, Green Tea Mimosa. And I was genuinely quite excited about this because I do really like the note of a mimosa. I've got a couple of mimosa perfumes, well, perfumes that are heavy in mimosa that I just think are just so feminine and spring summery, and they smell like you're frolicking in a field. And I was so therefore thinking, if I'm going to try another green tea flanker, mimosa is a really good one to go for. And again, it was like a really, really bargainous price. Here's the bottle. Slight pink tone with these explosions of kind of... I like they've managed to get the kind of slightly fluffy, powdery feel you get from mimosa. That's really cool. And then you've got the nice classic green tea. So then, let's look at the notes here. This one, I think you get a bit more of a sense for the original green tea in this one. Top notes of green tea and citruses. The mid notes are mimosa. Base notes of heliotrope and ambrette. So this one, when I first spray it, is when I get the most mimosa, and that is when I think it's the nicest. And then again, it quite quickly starts to get a bit shampooey and it gets sharper. I wish this wasn't quite as citrusy as it is. I wish that it was sweeter. And I was looking at this when I was about to order it and thinking, well, it's got mimosa, which tends to be quite a beautiful sweet floral. And then it's got heliotrope, which for me often goes quite sweet. And it's obviously also quite powdery. But there's a very strong shampooey feel here and a really shampooey citrus. I don't believe that this only has mimosa and heliotrope in it. This smells like there's a really strong white floral in here to me. With all of that. You get a little bit of that powdery mimosa. And again, this is another one. It's definitely a little bit better when it dries down on my skin. But it was never giving me that sweet mimosa-y feel that I was looking for. And I think it's such a shame. I feel like if there was just way more mimosa and, well, less of whatever it is that I'm finding a bit shampooey here, so whatever kind of white florals are hiding in the background, and there was less citrus, this could be so pretty, because I think that watery, slightly aromatic green tea would have given something interesting to this mimosa. In that most of like the mimosas I have, they have something very green in, like a bitter green, whereas the green tea profile isn't really bitter. It's more kind of herbaceous and soft, and I think that mixed with a sweet powdery mimosa would have been so beautiful. But it's too shampooey, and I do have this problem with a lot of the flankers for green tea. The original green tea is not even slightly shampooey to me. It has nothing sharp or screechy going on. It is just perfection. And obviously when something's that perfect to you, other flankers are probably not going to smell as good. But realistically, I don't think there's any need to have like this shampooey screechiness in so many of these flankers. I think it's weird. I don't know what it is that they put in them, but it's always a bit of a disappointment to me. So funnily enough, like I was absolutely sure that the mimosa would be the one that I liked more than the nectarine. But in a way, I think the Nectarine Blossom is nicer than this. And that's the one that I would advise on for a freshie, probably over this. Just because, well, you're not really getting nectarine, you're sort of getting peach more than that. But they're very close, obviously, those fruits. But I feel like with green tea mimosa, you're not really getting enough mimosa. There just needs to be way more mimosa for me. And I do think it would have just been so much better if it was just a bit sweeter. You know, and I don't, you know, I've got loads of Freshies going on here, but this I think would really benefit from being just a little bit sweeter. Yeah, and when you first spray it, you get that kind of sweetness from the mimosa, and you get a sweeter citrus, but it just kind of gets sharper as it dries down. So yeah, this one I don't love, but I do think it's really nice. I would say if you're looking at getting one cheapie out of all of these, then 100% my favourite is Vervine The Blanc. I think that this one, it's got everything you want in a kind of bright, easy to wear summer freshie. It's got some greenness, it's got some citrus, but it's got this soft musky tea, and it really dries down to be a beautiful skin scent. I just think you'll smell it's almost like you'll smell clean and sexy at the same time with this one. So yeah, this is definitely my favourite. This is my recommendation from this batch. Obviously, obviously, this is also a recommendation, but it's just an expensive one, isn't it? So if you want something that's a little bit more affordable, then I would definitely go for this one. If you want to splash out, this is gorgeous. Both of these joined my collection pretty much at the same time. They're both on the same shelf, you know, ready to just grab when I want something for a hot day. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys. Let me know if you have any of these. I hope that this was helpful to you in some way, and thanks very much for watching. Bye, guys.